Well, good morning, everyone. Absolute pleasure to be here this morning to talk about the future in a water-stressed region and what does that really mean. What I'm not going to do for the next 15 minutes or so, I'm not going to bombard you with loads of facts and figures and graphs and tables because it's only the start of the day, so I'm going to try and keep this relatively high level. And what I'm going to try and do is just recap on actually what do we mean by a water-stressed region, what does the future hold, and actually where are the challenges ahead. So let me start at relatively high level. Hopefully everyone recognises this map on the screen here. This is straight from the Environment Agency report. What this tells us that in the southeast of England, we're far more stressed than anyone else in the UK. And anyone working in the southeast of England will no doubt vouch for that. So southeast of England, quite a clear picture here, very stressed. North of England, nice and relaxed. Southwest, nice and relaxed. Okay? That's fair, that's fair. So that's just a little reminder about what do we mean by a water-stressed region. And what does the future hold? Well, one of the aspects that the future holds for us is if you look at our water resources plan over the next 25 years, and this is just for Thames Water, just for our water supply customers, we're going to see an increase in population of 1.7 million. And that's just Thames Water. Now again, we have other water-only companies operating our area, so what it's going to do to that nice overly stressed southeast area, clearly that's going to create even more stress. More water demand, more people, more development, more housing, more concreting over some of those green areas, more runoff, more stress on the sewer systems. Quite straightforward so far. But what does that actually mean in terms of climate change? Now again, when you look at some of the big picture aspects here, we tend to concentrate just on water supply, water demand in a water-stressed area. But one of the beauties of actually our industry, and I think one of the great strengths of our industry at the moment, we are vertically integrated. So in terms of us managing a water and wastewater company, we have got the full cycle. So when you actually look at the future of actually what does it mean in terms of climate change, well, you start by saying actually we're going to have less water in the rivers, less to abstract. That's going to put stress on our systems. The demand's going to increase. So you've actually got higher demand but less water to go around. But actually we've got to find more water from somewhere. When you actually look at the vagaries in terms of the weather cycles and what's that going to do to our systems, more increased flooding, drier periods. And actually if we are producing more water, what that means is actually we're going to be treating more water on the wastewater side of the business. And if we're treating more water on the wastewater side of the business, it means it's got to go back into the rivers. But if it's going back into the rivers, which actually now have lower flow, the environmental impact on those rivers is going to be far greater. So that's going to lead to tighter quality standards to treating that water before it goes back into the rivers because the rivers can't deal with it anymore. And it's one horrible, horrible cycle. And that's what it means in terms of the theory of what our future holds in terms of working in a water-stressed region with future population growth, with the impacts of climate change. And that's the theory. And let's just turn that theory into practice. I said I won't bombard you with facts and figures. What that really means is dry rivers, dry reservoirs, and flooded kitchens. Okay. So I think that's about it in my presentation, really. I was asked to sort of, I wanted people wanted me to stand up and talk about the future in a water-stressed region. That's it. It's that easy. Well, that's the theory. What I really want to challenge now, that's the theory, but what does it really mean in practice? Because when you look over the last couple of years, the water restrictions haven't actually always been in those highly stressed areas. If you go back into them to 2010, actually, the water restrictions that were being talked about in 2010 and the last set of restrictions in place were actually in United Utilities, not in that overly stressed southeast of England. 2011, this year, where are the restrictions this year? Yes, Anglia suffered. We all know Anglia suffered and probably are still suffering. But also we had Cornwall, Devon and Derbyshire all suffering at the same time. But these are the nice, relaxed areas. These aren't under stress at all. You take another step forward. 2011 continued. Where's the next area of discussion regarding restrictions and drought and measures onto customers? It wasn't in the horrible southeast. It was actually in Severn Trent. The area, time after time, when they say they've got an abundance of water that they want to share with the rest of the country. So I believe. And then finally, and this is where it gets a little bit too much detailed, the final set of restrictions weren't actually on water use. They were actually on the Leeds to Liverpool and Rochdale canals, where actually navigation was restricted due to lack of water in the canals. Now, I'm not saying that the Environment Agency have got it wrong. Okay, if you go back to the original graph, I'm not saying that the Environment Agency have got it wrong, because actually, in the round, in theory, over long-term average, yes, the southeast of England is far more stressed than anyone else when it comes to water scarcity. But what I'm saying is it doesn't always work that way in terms of practice. And one thing you do learn in this industry, and I've been with it for 25 years, you cannot always rely on the theoretical models. And we can't afford to rely on those theoretical models going forward. When you actually look at those water models and all the predictions and the plans we've got for the future as well, they're great. They look over 25 years. Some of them are based on fact, some of them are based on theoretical assumptions, some of them are based on aspirations. One of the biggest aspirations is on water consumption. So over the next 25 years, we'll actually reduce water consumption for each one of us in the room to an average of 130 litres per head per day. A great aspiration. We're currently at 163. I don't know how we get to 130. But it's not just by the water companies. It needs a far, far greater joined-up approach in terms of new legislation, looking at building regulations, looking at future planning, and driving customer behaviour. It looks easy, doesn't it? 160 down to 130, that's easy. Believe me, it's not, and it's going to be a major struggle for us to get there. This little chap on the screen, he's one of our characters from our town called Water Wisely that we're trying to use to promote education in the schools. So for me, it's a mixture of all sorts of things. There's no magic wand, there's no silver bullet in terms of how do we deal with the future. It's got to be a mixture of water efficiency, it's got to be a mixture of metering, it's got to be a mixture of different tariffs to drive different behaviour, it's got to be a mixture of mains replacement, catchment management, taking that bigger picture view. Catchment management to me is going to be absolutely key in the future. But that's where we've got the strength in this industry, where we can look at that full water cycle, right from abstracting the water from the rivers, to treating it, to actually returning it to the rivers. Don't underestimate the strength we have in this industry. But equally, you can't do it without investing for the future and investing in new resources. And if you want to break some of those theoretical models and actually ensure that we are resilient for the future, it's going to really need some brave decisions by us as an industry to do the right thing to safeguard the future. But to make those brave decisions isn't easy, because if we were to run into a drought, and if we did have a dry summer, followed by a dry autumn, and potentially a dry winter, as an industry we can't react quick enough. Because if you're going to develop any of these new schemes, if you're looking to develop a reuse scheme, just for 25 megalitres maybe, we supply over 2,000 megalitres a day into London. So these figures are all drop in the ocean type stuff in terms of what we're looking at. If we were to want to actually construct another desalination plant, 8 years. A new reservoir, I think that's optimistic at 12 years. If we were to construct a new reservoir, I'd say it's more 15 and 8, or 12. But equally, if you look at the soft issues, so if we were to be able to replace some of that ageing network we've got across London, and most of our network across London is over 100 years old. One of our great achievements, I was told only the other day, one of our great achievements as Thames Water is over the last 10 years, we've replaced 8% of our network. That's fantastic. And someone said to me, if ever you tried to actually manage a project to replace 8% of your network, you'd never thought you'd been able to achieve it. Actually, I got quite depressed. Because if we've got mains in the ground at the moment that are 100 years old, and I've only replaced 8% in the last 10 years, those mains that are 100 years old now have got to last another 100 years. Now again, I'm just a simple engineer. The theory may say it's okay, but in practice, if you can dig pipes up in London, you can put your finger through them, and you can, it's not right. But also, people talk about metering. Is metering really the answer? I think it's another piece of the jigsaw. And the staggering fact is that even over the next 5 years, if we installed 650,000 metres across London, that'll potentially save 19 megalitres a day. It's a drop in the ocean. It needs a far more joined-up approach. But where do we stand today? Well, actually, I think what we shouldn't underestimate and understate is the success of the industry. We have actually got very robust plans looking forward. We have those 25-year water resources plans. They're within a very, very clear statutory framework. It's a very transparent framework, and it's open to public consultation. And there are some great opportunities to join some of those things up. Yes, there's opportunities to improve. Yes, we must improve the way it works. But what we shouldn't underestimate is the strength of that system that we've already got in place and the benefits that it can deliver. And we should be building on those strengths, not actually taking them apart. So the way forward, I think we're at a crossroads in terms of industry. What is it about going forward? Is it about collaboration? And actually, or is it about competition? Do we look at driving a market and we all start bidding against each other and splitting things up? Or do we find a way of working together? And that's not just the water companies, that's also the regulators as well. So it's working far closer with the Environment Agency, working far closer with some of the other groups, such as WWF and the like, and actually protecting the environment as well as looking after our customers. But picking up Mark's point, which I thought was really good and a good lead-in for me, what do our customers think? Now, we've already set up a 2,000-strong customer panel, which we can contact almost any hour of the day, any day of the week, send them a question, and we get a response coming back. And this is proving a really, really powerful tool. The problem is you get the average response. You get the majority response coming back from all your customers. And while I've managed to put some really, really good questions to them, dinner's getting rather boring. Meaning that I ask them each day what I'm having for dinner, and because you get the majority response back, you get the most popular response. And fish and chips is great, but not 5 days a week. But we actually posed a question to that panel. What do they want? Do they actually want to see more collaboration with the companies working with the Environment Agency, or do they actually want to see more competition? Straightforward, 4 questions. We shouldn't be surprised in a response, because in the vast majority of all responses, people are looking for us to work together. That's not saying that competition isn't right. What I'm sharing with you, this is the response that we've received from our customers. The vast majority of our customers want the companies and the Environment Agency working together so we have the best plans, the best place to use water in the best way. This is a really interesting map because you also get lots of discussions going on at the moment about water trading and should we do more of it and should we share more of it. I thought this is more like a bit of a Dad's Army map actually, but this is the PC version. No flags on the arrows. But this is the Dad's Army map of the southeast of England. These are all the major transfers that already exist in the southeast of England. But I keep reading article after article telling me that these things don't exist. I know they exist because I've worked for most of those companies and I've been responsible for managing them. And actually there are some major transfers that are already there. These aren't just 5 or 10 megalitres a day. Some of these are 40, 50, 80, 90 million litres of water a day being transferred by the companies in the southeast of England already. Yes, it can be better. Yes, it can be more efficient. Yes, it can be more joined up, but it's not broken. There is a great foundation there for this industry to work on. So please, next time you see an article, you see things about we need to do more water trading, we need to actually have more transfer schemes in place, just remember the Dad's Army map. Some of this stuff already goes on. But one of the big topics that we do need to actually remember is actually, are we really taking into account when we're developing some of these schemes and some of these choices, are we really looking at the true value of water? And while this actually works, I think we can do far more, and I think there's the potential to do more. I think there are some barriers in place that hamper some of that trading. I think we need to create a level playing field, both for the existing companies and also new joiners to the industry as well. And I also think that actually we need transparency, so we have got total visibility working with the Environment Agency and the other companies of the total water that's actually available and making sure we're getting best use out of it and making sure we understand the true value of it in each case as well. So in conclusion, real big message for me is real life rarely follows theoretical models, and I think that's a major warning that I'd like to put out into the room today. We cannot keep looking at the economic models, we cannot keep looking at the theoretical water modelling going forward. We need to take some brave decisions. But the industry's not broken, and neither is the framework that supports it, and I think there's a lot there to build on. And I think there's a lot more we can do in terms of actually opening up some of the markets and looking for better ways of using that water. And to do so, we've got to actually incentivise the right behaviour. And that actually means putting a proper value on water, But that doesn't mean increasing customer bills. There are two different things. And if anyone thinks that actually by putting in value on water naturally rolls through terms of increasing customer bills, that's the last thing we want to do. The big message is that we've got to keep water affordable. It's taken for granted, but we've got to keep it affordable. But overall, I actually think going forward over the next 5 to 10 years, it's going to need some very brave, bold decisions, and it's going to be about people doing the right thing, and that does mean investing for the future. But before I wrap up, there's just one other thing I want to show you. The front cover of NCE, the new civil engineer, November 2003. I'm really proud of this front cover. That's me. That's the first time I ever made the front page of the NCE. It's really sad, I've still got it. I'll keep it at home, tucked away. I'll get it out every now and then when I feel really depressed. I want to cheer myself up. But that was November 2003. We'd just gone through a dry summer, just gone through a dry autumn, and the predictions were it was going to be a dry winter. And people were starting to panic, and no one had the answer. But there's one fantastic quote from the Water Resources Planning team in the Environment Agency that actually appeared in the middle of that article. Now, I don't know about anyone else in the room, but I can't remember the last time I saw a weather forecast on the BBC which says we're going to have normal rainfall. I can't remember anyone when I've met over dinner or down the pub or just chatting and talking about the weather that anyone ever talks about, that's fantastic normal weather we've just had. The only thing I can guarantee in this room is there's no such thing as normal rainfall. Thank you very much.